Mindset Mavericks, your blueprint for bold thinking and boundless growth.
Welcome to Mindset Mavericks. So today's guest is Lance Kesner. So imagine creating a product in your kitchen and watching it go viral, and then seeing it on Walmart shelves in just a few years. Lance Kesner is a co-founder of Keep Life Tasty, and he did just that. Lance, alongside his wife, Lori, has turned a family-inspired idea into a thriving brand, not only innovates the food and beverage space, but also helps manage stress and anxiety. So get ready to learn secrets behind his success, the challenges of scaling a business, and how his journey can inspire your entrepreneurial dreams. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, John. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I have just mentioned your business, Keep Life Tasty, but I think the best person to describe what it does and who you are would be yourself. Can you give us a brief introduction into what Keep Life Tasty is about?
Well, we have created kind of our signature product, which is Millie's Sipping Broth, out of a need. Really, the need was to be able to take a break, to have something that kind of made you feel good and, was in line with your wellness program. And basically it's broth, a soup broth, and a tea bag. It was created out of a need for my wife as a teacher.
Yes, like I said, it's an innovative product. I don't think anyone is really doing something like that before, so it sounds fantastic. And I think it is a lot about convenience as well, like say having a quick 15-minute tea break and being able to have something which isn't just fast food or filled with sugar. So it sounds like a fantastic product. What I'm really interested in as well is, obviously it's gone viral and you scaled up to Walmart, but what was it that you did before Keep Life Tasty?
I used to be in the software sales business here in Bellevue, Washington, just down the street from Microsoft. I didn't work for Microsoft, but there's a lot of people around here, obviously, that are kind of an ecosystem of software technology.
Yeah.
And, when the economy went down in 2009 here in the United States, it was kind of a signal to my wife and I that we should create our own business and kind of take things into our own hands.
But yeah, that's quite a pivot from your previous kind of work that you'd done. So did you always see yourself as an entrepreneur, or was that kind of born out of this product?
I don't know. It's funny that word is, I don't know, I kind of shy away from that as a way to kind of describe myself. I really think of myself as a problem solver.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned how to sell at a very early age. And what I realized was selling is really solving someone's problem. First off, figuring out if there is one, identifying the signals of a problem, and trying to figure out what the best solution would be, and then presenting it, and then following through. And really, so I really consider myself more of a problem solver than an entrepreneur. It just happens to be that it helps me take care of my family.
Sure. And that's really how Millie's Sipping Broth was born. So can you describe, going back to those first early days when you started working on the project, what did that look like?
Yeah, so the inspiration came from a need that my wife had during the day as a teacher. She would need a break in between classes, kind of in the afternoon. That was, she wanted to sit down for a few minutes, get some peace and quiet, have something that was satisfying, but didn't, wreck her calorie intake for the rest of the day, or to, wreck dinner or something like that. And a lot of teachers, what they'll do is they'll bring all the leftover cookies and cakes from the weekend, put it in the teacher's room. So hopefully, other people will eat them. But she didn't want to do that. So she used to take a bouillon cube to school because she wanted something hot. She wanted a drink, but she didn't want coffee or tea. And so the savoriness of the bouillon cube is what she was looking for. And we decided to kind of work together on a healthier approach to that. So I put something together in the kitchen that was herbs and spices and dehydrated vegetables. I put it into a mug. And she said, it tastes really good, but there's, stuff floating all over the place. Let's put it in a tea bag. We took Lipton tea bags and ripped them open and put this concoction in it, stapled them back up. I made about 10 of them. And then she took them to the teacher's room and told a few people, and they were gone right away. And we knew we had something.
Yeah. So that was a bit of an aha moment when you knew they were all gone in one afternoon.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course, they were free. They were free. So, that's another thing that we can talk about.
Yeah. And for those recipes, those early day recipes, is that something that you've been creating already and you just kind of replicated that in a tea bag, or was it new
It was
tastes and flavors?
completely new. What we did is we kind of looked at what are popular soup flavors. So first off, the first parameter that we had was that my wife, Lori, is a vegetarian. And so she didn't want any kind of animal protein in the broth. So no chicken, no beef, no fish, whatever. So we kind of focused on flavor. What was the flavor? And all the vegetable broths that are out there they call them vegetable. That's the name because you can't identify what the vegetable is that's in there. So what we decided to do was take ideas from really popular soups or really popular stews and or ethnic ideas, and those were our inspirations. So like our first one was a tomato basil broth, and then we added things like Thai lemongrass and a spicy tortilla and a delight pho, so a Vietnamese one, which ends up being our most popular flavor. And then we put it in a tea bag like this, and found a manufacturer for it. And those were the early days.
Yeah. And how long did it take you to go in from using the Lipton tea bags to kind of moving on to a bit more advanced ways of producing it?
I think that part of our journey has been not really kind of understanding what any barriers are.
Yeah.
And really not being sidetracked by things that we think might happen. And so it's good and bad. We thought, oh, this is a simple idea. We should be able to find someone to make it for us really quickly. Well, it took, I don't know, 6 years to find someone who eventually could make it the correct way. But during that time, nothing stopped us. And we were up and running within 90 days. We figured out a way to get some of it made. We took it to the Pike Place Market here in Seattle, which is a very famous, world famous market. And we had a booth right across the street from the original Starbucks. And we sold it on the weekends, and people, they liked it. They paid money for it. And that's really where we focused our energy, which is trying to get something that people would buy. And then we knew that we could improve upon it over and over again.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. It sounds like such a long time when you say 6 years to get into that stage. So what were some of the difficult moments you had in those early days? You mentioned about trying to find a suitable manufacturer for it. But what are some of those challenges?
Yeah, what we were doing basically was taking two completely different ideas or two categories and merging them together. And that was really difficult for traditional manufacturers to understand. And so they would attempt to do what we were trying to do, and it would break their equipment, or they would get really upset with us, and the whole time, they, before they would make it, they say, oh yeah, we can do this. It's going to be no problem. And then I would get these angry phone calls, like it was my fault that they didn't know what they were doing. Right. And so we had to kind of navigate being able to generate interest in what we were doing, to be able to manage these companies that were, we really wanted them to be partners with us in this success of the business. And then kind of looking forward to see what the market, was this something that we could see ourselves growing into? So those were the early challenges. And I'm glossing over, all the big problems, like, one of our manufacturers deciding that he was going to take a shortcut and burn our ingredients. So literally when you made it, it tasted like burned broth. It was We
Hmm.
couldn't figure out what was going on. At the same time that we had a massive customer who was testing it out, and people were going, "This tastes terrible," and we couldn't figure out
Hmm.
why. Those early days were very painful.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the mindset of being able to keep going in those times as well. Because I think it's easy to give up on the idea or think it is too difficult and not going to be able to overcome these challenges. So what was it that kept you going during those tough times?
Um, well, partially not understanding what was coming next. That was,
Yeah.
and I think we were intentionally not trying to overthink what was going to come next. I mean, and it still happens to this day. I mean, things got thrown at us, and all you have to do, all that we know is that we are problem solvers. We can sit down and think
Mm.
about it. We don't have to make instant, quick decisions. We can, there are some of those that come along, but the motivation of taking care of our family, being able to build something that's sustainable for us for the long term, and having fun. We're
Mm.
both Lori and I are very innovative and kind of creative, and we wanted to have something that we, could call our own and be proud of. And those things really kind of move you along. And I think everyone's got different motivators that keep them going. And oh, by the way, don't quit your day job or don't quit your consulting job while you're trying to build your dream thing, because that's a real quick motivator to stop. But yeah, so those were the things that kept us going.
Yeah, so from those comments, I take it that's exactly what you did and quit your consulting job.
We had Lori and I both were working 2 and 3 jobs at the same time, and it was just what we had to do. We did what we had to do.
And those skills, just having that problem solving mindset and thinking you're going to overcome it because you're a problem solver, that's a great skill to have. But do you know where that came from?
My family, I grew up in a family of, I guess you would call entrepreneurs. My parents had their own business. They had multiple businesses, and I was, I didn't have a choice. I was part of it. I was
Yeah.
out there on weekends helping them with whatever was going on. And, I knew that, it was kind of hammered into my head that I needed to be self-reliant and to not really, literally, if you work for somebody else, you could not have that job tomorrow and it would be completely out of your control. There's nothing you can do about that, right? So that always was kind of in the back of my mind. And so I learned early on that facing tough issues was just part of the deal. And you either face it and work it out somehow, or you bury your head in the sand and don't move forward.
Yeah, but like I say, when you have quit your job, it's definitely a great motivator to solve those problems. I think it sounds like one of the key moments for you and your company was the fact it did go viral, your product did go viral. Can you tell us a little bit about that period and how that came about?
Yeah, so it was always important for us to sell directly to the right people who needed our product, who couldn't go without having our product. And you would think, okay, so who really needs broth in a tea bag? Well, first off, people who are not looking for caffeine or sugar during their day. They want a snack that is satisfying and that is going to help them stay on their wellness journey, right? Whatever that is, keto, intermittent fasting, whatever that is. We kept getting emails from people who were on Weight Watchers, really big in the United States, where people have to count points for the things that they consume. And so we Weight Watchers the International reached out to us, and they were very interested in our product for their members. And this was right before COVID. And so we went through the process with them where they established that our product had 0 points, which is the best rating you can get for your product. And they said, we want to sell your product. So we'll take the orders, you ship them. And they put us on their website to their 4.5 million subscribers. And then COVID hit and it just went nuts. Everything went crazy. And then we became the best-selling vegetable broth on Amazon right after that.
Wow. But yeah, Weight Watchers, like I say, it's a fantastic community to get into. But I can imagine that having that sudden interest, though, can throw up a lot of problems, particularly with actually creating enough products to keep up with demand. Is that something that you experienced?
Yeah, there were intermittent issues when first off, when we first got the initial push, luckily we had some backstock that could take care of us. But as we got into COVID, there were all kinds of challenges. There were labor challenges, there were ingredient challenges, there were packaging challenges. And so we did our best to stay, relevant in the minds of our suppliers so that they would continue to give us product and to continue give us service. So yeah, there were definitely issues there when we hit that spike.
Yeah, just from my own experience, I also had a product business during COVID, and I certainly saw manufacturing times for some of our products went from about 3 months to 9 months, and it caused huge issues with existing customers. Is that something you faced? Were there delays to getting products out, or were you able to keep going and keep up with the demand?
Yeah, I think we saw a few blips here and there. There may have been some packaging differences here and there to the end consumer, but bottom line is they all got what they were looking for, right? And we learned a lot during that whole time. We learned a lot about managing the supply chain. We learned a lot about what the end customer really wanted, why they were, we got a lot of time to talk to people and learn that wellness wasn't just the thing they were after, but they really wanted that peace and quiet during the day. And it was really part of the 0 point snack, right? It was just kind of a side benefit. When you're making tea, as you probably know, you have to wait, right? It's a process, right? Well, when you're making broth in a tea bag, it's the same process. It's very intentional. You just don't go up to a machine and it pours it in.
Yeah. But yeah, I can imagine it is a whole ritualistic thing, like having a nighttime tea before bed or journaling for the day. I can imagine it does become part of your daily routine.
Well, people already understood it, right? They understood what it's like to make tea. Now you're making broth in a tea bag. And oh, by the way, we've been drinking broth for thousands of years where, to make you feel better, what was the first thing people gave you? They gave you broth.
Yeah, and during this whole period, it sounds like it was busy with Weight Watchers and some of those endorsements. Were you scaling staffing within the business too, or how were you managing to keep up staff-wise and make sure everything was done that should be done?
So we early on, we got some lessons in being very lean with our organization. And that meant outsourcing every possible thing we could. And not investing in things that wouldn't scale. As an example, we got a warehouse for fulfilling our orders, but what we quickly realized was that our manufacturers, we could ship directly from our manufacturers to, as we grew with retailers and stuff like that, we could ship it directly from them. We didn't even need to have it in our warehouse. And what we realized is that was a trajectory that was going to, having that warehouse was either going to be, it was going to help us in the short term, but it would definitely hinder us in the long term because we would have to keep paying for that overhead. And we didn't have enough space really to have the growth. So we would tap into third-party warehouses, and we just got rid of our warehouse because we realized that we didn't need it anymore. And so, people, processes, literally tapping into it. I mean, we still are only 4 people, my wife and myself, and my sister-in-law who comes once a week to help, and my brother-in-law who he's developmentally disabled, and he helps us with, paperwork and just some things around. But we, our home office is it, but everything is done in state-of-the-art professional facilities around the country. And we really just focus on the customers. We focus on the quality. We focus on making sure that the processes are not interrupted. And that's really where the most important things were.
Yeah, it's incredible to think it's 4 staff members when you're in 700 Walmart stores, that's a lot of customers.
Actually, we're in 1,800 Walmart stores.
1,800
Yes.
Walmart stores. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot of customers. That is very lean. And I think, like I say, one of the big things will be making sure you've got the correct operations processes in place and logistics. So do you have any advice for small business owners who are looking for trustworthy partners in logistics and manufacturing?
Yeah, I want to say we lucked out, but I think we were very deliberate in what we were expecting. And I got to tell you, it changes. It's a constantly changing landscape. I mean, I just got an email yesterday from an organization that we use for one piece of our business, and they gave us 30 days notice. They're shutting their entire operation down. So sorry, you're going to have to find somebody else. Okay.
Yeah.
During one of our busiest times of the year. Okay, great. So after this interview, guess what I'm going to be doing? Looking for somebody else.
Yeah.
But I think the thing is that we have to let go. And I would give this advice to anybody. Let go of the things you don't know how to do. Let someone else do it for you. And if you can't do it right away, it's not the end of the day. Focus on the most important things, which are getting someone to buy your product over and over and over again. And that may mean adjusting the product, adjusting the marketing. There's so many different things about that. But, those are the most critical things. That fuel of people buying and paying you money is what makes everything happen.
Yeah. I've just listened to just how streamlined you are and having few employees but servicing so many people. I'm interested to hear whether you've adopted any, for example, artificial intelligence to streamline things, or what things have you put in place to try and make sure you do have those strategies in place to cope?
Yeah. Oh, ChatGPT is my friend. I use it on a daily basis. As an example, one of the things about our product is it's not just, you don't have to just use it in a cup. You can actually tear the bag open and use the ingredients inside, because it's just dehydrated vegetables and seasonings. You can use them as a seasoning packet for cooking. And so a lot of people were asking us for ideas for cooking. And we would come up with these crazy ideas, like kind of on the spot. And then we would do them. We wanted to show people how quick you could do something with our product. So we would video a recipe. Here's a baked potato recipe using the broth as a seasoning. Okay, great. So we would video that, no plan at all. Just like, let's just do right off the cuff. And what we ended up doing was taking that video, getting the text out of the video with our video editing software, taking that text, pasting it into ChatGPT, and saying, make a recipe blog out of this text. And I got to tell you how frighteningly accurate that process is. Amazing. There are a few tweaks that need to be done here and there, but I'm telling you, in seconds, you would have a full recipe and formatted for a blog that I could cut and paste and put in. Traditionally, you would pay thousands of dollars to a professional chef to come up, document it, do a video, and we're doing it within 30 minutes. It's unbelievable on our own. And it just, so things like that are a prime example of adding value to our product so people get more use out of it.
Yeah, no, it's a fantastic idea, and just repurposing it for, let's say, multiple uses, videos, blogs, etc. And in terms of social media and blogs, how important has that been to growing your business?
Yeah, someone asked me, if you're going to start something now, how do you get people to buy your product? When we first started, social media was very, very nascent. It was, not a real fixture. And so we had to go person to person. We had to go to fairs and festivals and trade shows and, be there in person to get people to buy our product. Not to say that that wasn't valuable, but now social media is so, if you're persistent, you can use that in the same way that we did to get those initial customers. I think the critical thing is developing your own voice. When we were at the Pike Place Market, we're literally, they get 11 million people a year that walk through that market. Now, that doesn't mean we saw 11 million people, but there were some days where there were easily a couple 100,000 people walking through, and we had to catch their attention, give them within 5 to 10 seconds the idea of what we were doing so we could engage them. And we did that thousands of times. And what that did is it developed muscle memory, and also it tested out our idea of engaging people. And I think on social media, you have to take the same approach. You have to test out your approach to your audience as many times as you possibly can to make it as interesting as you possibly can.
But yeah, it seems like there's quite a lot of innovation, both with the product and trying to keep up to date with those messages you're putting out in blog posts. So how do you manage to balance staying innovative while maintaining the original kind of quality and essence of your products, so you're not losing touch of why you started?
Yeah, I think that both my wife and I don't look at ourselves as experts in what we're doing. I think we do that it's probably just part of our personalities, but we also, I think it's an asset, because if you consider yourself an expert, you're never going to learn what's right in front of you. And so we're very inquisitive. We're very, we always want to know how to make things better, how we can sell better, how we can engage people better, and that kind of thing. So that environment forces us to innovate out of necessity. And I think that, just making sure that you have a serious curiosity that is going to continue to drive you, especially in something like this, where we've been doing this almost now for 10 years. And is the initial curiosity there? No, it's different. We have different curiosity, and we innovate in different ways. But the bottom line is the innovations feed the engine that we've created.
And in terms of how your product range is expanded, so what's the lineup now like? Have you moved on much from the broths and the tea bags? Is there a whole range of products?
Well, part of being innovative is that you can come up with something every day, and that's a good thing and a bad thing. The bad thing is that it's distracting from what you are currently doing. So we've had to really knuckle down on making sure that our 4 flavors are in as many points of distribution as possible. With the Walmart push, we now are in 3,000 locations around the United States. And we believe that we kind of need to cool off a little bit on that and focus on that repetitive purchase. And so our main focus now is food service. So imagine, John, if you were taking a flight and the beverage cart came along and the flight attendant said, "What would you like to drink? Coffee, tea, or broth?" I mean, would you go, "Well, I'll take some Thai lemongrass broth"? And, wouldn't that be amazing?
As you were saying it, I was like, that sounds amazing. Yeah. I'd love to try that and have it, in cafes, or just something a little bit different from standard teas and coffees.
Absolutely. Yeah. Afternoon in a cafe, if you had broth as an option, or God forbid you were in hospital and you needed to recovery, having an amazing flavored broth instead of the salt water that they serve you, with your meal, or in a company break room. Imagine 3:00 comes along and you just don't want what you normally have, and you don't want to reach for a bag of Cheetos. So, a savory broth is really, so anyway, those are the places that we're really focusing on. And that's really where it will be symbiotic, because those places will help with the market recognition that we've built. And so they kind of will feed on each other and be very complementary.
Let's kind of continue on the same point we're talking about, and that's keeping the brand loyalty and keeping customers engaged. Are there particular strategies or things you've put in place to try and build your community?
So originally we were very focused on the product and the flavor and the uses. And we realized, okay, yeah, that's great. What else have you got? That's kind of the attitude we were getting from people. And we have our existing customer base, but we're also, we need to tap into a new customer base. So just lately kind of created a mascot. In fact, here's the Broth Sloth. And what that's done for us is it's enabled us to kind of bring this playful mascot out who, is there to comfort you, right? Because we're in the comfort business, and to have you slow down. Broths are slow, they're furry. And so what we want people to do is to, slow down and stay comfy, sip slowly. And so that whole thing, we tested it out at a trade show because we were in between multi-billion-dollar companies. And so we made this Broth Sloth in real life. It's like this huge thing we put, and it had these arms that come out. The idea was we were going to get people to come and take pictures of it, and the arms would hug them. Okay. So we put it up. We made this thing in our kitchen. We took it to the trade show. We set it up, and it's massive. I mean, it's the Broth Sloth stands way over you.
Wow.
The next day, there were people waiting in line to take pictures with the Broth Sloth. We knew that, okay, we hit something here. And the engagement of getting people to come in, literally I would go into the aisle and there were people walk by it, and I say, the Broth Sloth is waiting for you to take a picture, and he's been waiting all day. And they're like, okay, I'll come and they didn't even know what we did. By the time they sat down, gave me their phone, I had put samples in their hand, and they're walking away with samples of our product that they were just going to walk by. So, that really, those types of needs are really where, we get excited.
Yeah.
It's, it's fun. It's, and there's all kinds of things that we're going to do with the Broth Sloth. But anyway, yeah, so that's a great example.
But yeah, and that's a great example of, I think, innovation. And like you say, just having some fun and enjoying the moment and not taking all the stress on and forgetting to enjoy the moment. I can imagine trying to get into 1,800 stores is quite a stressful place to be, and some of those experience you've had with having the contents burnt, etc., must have been quite a stressful place to be. So how can you stay grounded and focused with all of that going on?
Yeah, there are days where it's really difficult. I think, the very fortunate to work with professional partners who have done this before. What we realized when we had the opportunity to work with Walmart, and by the way, when we got the opportunity, there were something called a Walmart open call, and where it's products that are made in the United States, and it's for domestic Walmarts. It's not for the global supply chain. 7,000 products were presented to this process, and then they only chose to meet with 800. And we got something called a golden ticket, which meant they gave us a deal on the spot, and there were only 70 that got that. And so, right away, they're giving us, they're putting us in a position of, okay, we're going to put you in success here. Now the rest is up to you. So it's not only was there pressure from, being able to make sure we had enough product when we launched into all the stores, to making sure that we continue to have enough product, but now, guess what? We have to make sure that people go in and buy it. And not only do they buy it over and over again. So, there are you can get deep into every one of those issues. And I think what we've done is really let our partners who are focused on those things focus on them to the best of their abilities, and then us add value where we can, where there are problems. And again, we're, considering ourselves not the experts, so we can look at things a little bit differently than they would necessarily. And you'd be amazed at how a product expert or an expert in their field, they make mistakes and they can't see around the mistake sometimes. And if, you have a way of kind of taking, sitting back and, looking at it differently, how, you can together solve these problems.
Yeah, I think a bit of naivety can be a good thing, particularly when it is, like I say, problem solving and when there can be huge issues. Having a lack of awareness about what you're facing can actually be beneficial.
Because I'll tell you, if we knew everything that we were going to be facing, we would stop. I mean, there are some huge challenges that come up on a daily basis, and we have to trust that the processes that we have in place will take care of it. Doesn't mean that it's perfect. And I think that's also the other thing too, is everything you do is not going to be perfect. You just have to, chalk it up to personality.
Yeah.
And, my wife is very, very, she doesn't like to be in videos very much. We had an opportunity during COVID also to be on the Home Shopping Network here in the United States. And so she said, I'm not doing it. You got to do it. From here, and we built this little, I'm talking to you from a broth bar that we built in the front of our house.
Yes.
We built this so we could do these, live demos on TV.
Yeah.
And, did I know what I was doing? No, I didn't know, but we figured it out.
Yeah, and it seems to be doing well so far. So, but yes, it's interesting. What I'd like to ask about is a bit more about the Walmart process and how that came about. So how did you get this opportunity? Was it an application you submitted, or what did that look like?
Yeah, there was an application. We belong to an organization in the United States. It's called Range Me, and now they actually have an international footprint, and they manage buyers in consumer packaged goods products. So we'd been part of their we had a membership with them for a while. So Walmart approached them to basically find people like us and manage the process of an application. So the application, from what I remember, it was literally like 2 paragraphs. Here are the products, okay, because they have a catalog of the products that we sell in the system, in the Range Me system. And basically, give us a couple of paragraphs about what you're doing and why you should be selling it at Walmart. And so we did that. I kind of forgot about it. And 3 months later, I get an email that said, "Oh, you've been chosen to meet on campus with Walmart. Stay tuned for, the date." So I had hernia surgery. And so I got an email about a week later after hernia surgery. "Yeah, we want to meet with you in 2 weeks." I couldn't fly. So I had to send one of our partners to go in our place to meet with the buyer. And It was an amazing, process, but it went wrong, in many different ways, but they still, at the end of all of the process and everything like that, the product quality stood out. And one of the meetings that they had, actually, the buyer said, "Oh, we've been drinking it and sharing it with our department before meeting with you," which blew us away. It was amazing.
Fantastic. It sounds like such a perfect opportunity to get into Walmart. I'd imagine, like you say, there's a lot of stress there as well and pressure to make sure it does sell. Were there particular things you started doing once you knew you'd got that contract to make sure it was selling? Did you, for example, step up advertisements, etc.?
Yeah. So part of the expectation when you have an opportunity like that, and by the way, not only are we in, the soup aisle at Walmart, we're literally like just next to Campbell's Soup, right? Which is all red and white there, but we're at eye level, literally eye level at every store. We knew that we had to do whatever it took to kind of kick that process off, because we have a completely new category of product that didn't exist before. The the products that they're selling now, we weren't replacing any of the products that they sold. It was all incremental sales. So we knew, and we still know, okay, to this day, and it's not over, that we have to incentivize people to go and find it at Walmart, which meant that we had to tell all of our existing customers, by the way, you can go get it at Walmart now. That included people who started buying from Amazon, buying our product, okay? And so in some way, we needed to let those people know, you can get it at Walmart now, which is maybe closer to you, or you can get it the same day, whatever. The second thing that we needed to do was to get our samples of our products into as many hands as possible, because we knew, and we still know to this day, that once someone tastes it, they're sold. It's like right away. And I just came back from a trade show yesterday in Las Vegas, and it was exactly the same thing. I instantly got someone to taste it, and right away, the whole conversation changed. So we have a pretty aggressive process around that, where we've given out about 120,000 samples of our product to Walmart shoppers in particular. And then, as far as social media is concerned, we hired an organization that has nano-influencers. And these nano-influencers may be, people that may have between 100 and 3,000 followers. They're not professional influencers by any means. They're just regular people who like to find new things and tell all their friends about it. And, are these polished professionals? No, they're just regular people who find the product and then go buy it and then tell everyone about it through a video or photo posting or whatever. So we're really digging into that and traditional earned media and that kind of thing. So the landscape has really changed. I mean, you would be surprised that a couple who developed a product in their kitchen, got a major contract with Walmart, would be interesting to the local media here in Seattle. We got no interest from them when we did the press release. It blew me away, just blew me away. Yeah. And I realized, this is going to be a lot harder than I expected.
Yeah. Did you do much to go down traditional press releases and get into traditional paper media?
We did. We tried the most expensive press release distribution system out there. We bought all of the additional features. We got one outlet that picked us up. We were aiming at consumers. We really, story around consumers and how it benefits consumers. And, we're a small business and, entrepreneur story, all that kind of stuff, right? The only outlet that picked it up, which ended up being probably the most important outlet, was a trade magazine in the food business. And they basically did an interview with us, with Lori and I. And the title of the article was, companies disrupting the broth and soup category. And here's what they've done. And so, that actually has gotten us a little more attention than we expected.
But yes, it's fascinating to hear that the nano-influencers have had a bigger impact than traditional press. I think typically when you think of influencers, you'll think of 100,000 people plus. But yeah, it's good to hear that that's actually a market that could be tapped into for other businesses too.
It's not only that, but I think written media is really challenged. I think, like what you're doing, John, this type of media is eating away at traditional sources, because people now are consuming things differently, right? They may be listening to it. They may be watching it. They may be watching 10 seconds of it. They may be listening to 10 seconds of it, right? You can't do that with print. And so there are challenges to traditional media that I think, realized really early on. And so, we just have to adapt. And that's part of being a problem solver. You have to be able to adapt quickly.
Yeah, and one of those challenges I know that you've had is the fact you've bootstrapped a company as well.
Right.
So how's that experience been? Did you have temptation to bring on investors, and how did you deal with that?
I was at the Fancy Food Show yesterday in Las Vegas, and that's kind of like the premier specialty food show. A lot of people from around the world there. They had a investor forum where they were doing a talk on what do you do to attract investment and all this kind of stuff. Every single one of them said, make sure you have revenue, right? That your product can generate revenue. Make sure you have customers who will buy it over and over again. They call that velocity. Make sure you have good velocity, and make sure you know your market. Okay, so they said don't just raise a bunch of money and try and figure those things out afterwards, because it doesn't work. And the reporter who was leading the panel said, I've written stories every year about some company goes out and finds money for an idea. It was off kilter. Didn't have the cost of making the product was way too high. They didn't expect that. The market didn't respond the way they were expecting. They just didn't have the messaging down right, and they blew through all their money. Okay, I came from the tech business where that was commonplace. That was like a badge of honor, and I didn't think that was a good way to build a business. So we literally had to make money with whatever we were doing, because that was the way it was funded. I mean, we did that on purpose. Now, I did tap into a few credit cards, here and there to kind of smooth over the edges. But if we couldn't make money, good enough money with a great enough margin, then we shouldn't have been doing it. And that's really what we focused on. And we continue to this day. That's how we fund everything, is by those programs to help Walmart. We built that into the funding of that entire program.
I know some of the large organizations, I'm not sure if Walmart's the same, but do have quite long terms for payment, and that can cause a lot of issues. Is that something you ran into at all?
We factored any of those issues in. It's not just the long terms of payment. It's the logistics of getting your product. Once your product leaves your warehouse and gets into their system, it can be a while. It can be 3 or 4 weeks, and the clock doesn't start ticking until they get it, and they know that, right? So they know that they've got an additional 30 days, because between when you shipped it and when they actually get it into the store or whatever. All contracts are a little bit different, and people have incentives to do certain things. So what Walmart does may be different than, let's say, a traditional distributor, because Walmart doesn't have a distributor. They act as their own distributor. So their prices are lower because they don't have a 30% margin to cover, someone else's middle management system. So there are definitely advantages. But there's, again, you have to be ready for that, and you have to be able to plan that ahead of time into the cost of the product.
But it's been fascinating hearing the whole experience of Millie sipping broth. And I know you've touched on a couple of things which are coming up next in areas you want to focus, such as getting into cafes and flights, etc. But what else is next for Millie sipping broths?
Yeah, I think the next couple of years are really stabilizing this growth. This growth is pretty rapid, and we really want to stabilize it to the point where, when we get, like, let's say, another growth opportunity, like a big growth opportunity, that we can digest that without really, being too affected. And that will include, making sure that our capacity keeps growing, right? So our manufacturing capacity, we could go for another year without taking another customer and focus completely on, getting our capacity bigger, So that's really what's going to be happening here in the next, and then looking for strategic partners that will help us get into those new markets that I was talking about, because you just can't do it by yourself.
But yeah, it's been inspiring hearing about the products that you're creating already, and just about the way you've done it as well, and bootstrapping the company, getting into Walmart, the new products and development of products. It's been fascinating for me to hear about your journey. There's a few questions I wanted to ask to get to know you a little bit better as well. And I wanted to ask particularly around mindset and how you've managed to achieve the mindset that you've got. So in terms of one particular book that's made the biggest influence on you, can you think of one?
I'm not too much of a reader. I didn't know you were going to ask me this question. I actually have a friend who wrote a book, The Mastery of Selling, and it's a very quick read. But basically the book's premise is all about how selling is like fishing, and the process of reeling in the opportunities or reeling in the sales are all about just like fishing. And that's probably the most recent book that I could talk about. And his name is Mike Schiller, and it's on Amazon. But it's a very quick read. It's in big font.
Yeah.
And he's a sales guy. He's not an author. He's not a writer. But the great thing is he writes it in very plain, common terms that, you can understand without, adding, like 10,000 pages of Malcolm Gladwell analysis, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love a plug and supporting friends as well. So, and as we said at the beginning, sales is a huge part of running a business anyway, whatever business I think that is. So the next one is around any daily practice that you might have that gets you in the right mindset for the day. Because it seems like you're quite a problem solver, you're quite optimistic or come across quite optimistic. Is there something you do on a daily basis to set you up for the day?
I try different things. I definitely make time every week to do something I like doing. I'm like, right now it's ski season and I'm a skier. When it's warmer, I'm a biker. My wife and I, we have a dog who's actually sitting right over there. I thought he was going to bark, but he's our chief dog officer. I forgot. Yeah, he's our fifth employee. He's the fifth employee. We have to walk him twice a day. Otherwise we pay for it, like big time.
Yeah.
And so those little snacks of exercises and everything like that really help with that. But recently, like in the last 2 months, I've adopted cold plunges into my daily routine. And right now, the water is about 39 degrees in my cold plunge. I started off at 20 seconds, and now I'm up to 80 seconds.
Yeah.
And you cannot think about anything else but what you're doing right at that moment. And so I found that doing things that are not an easy challenge, but a challenge that I can accomplish, during the day, that I can measure and improve on and get some benefit out of. Those are the things that I kind of seek out, and they change from time to time. The cold plunge thing, though, is pretty cool. But the great thing is everyone cringes when you describe it because they can imagine it. Everything you're imagining about how it feels is how it feels.
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those things I very much want to try it and start incorporating it, but I just haven't plucked up the courage to do it yet. So
it's part of, like starting a business. You either are all in or you're not.
Yeah.
And you have to go all in to try it, or
yeah. And what do you find it does for you?
It's the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning. So it's an instant challenge. So I know that the rest of the day can't be as bad as that, which is, 39 degree water. And so that's what it does for me. It also, there's all kinds of literature out there about how it calms you down for stress, and it also reduces inflammation and that kind of thing. But I really do it. I just do it for the challenge, really. And knowing that, and the last 2 days I was in Las Vegas, but I stayed with some friends, and they had a pool outside. And I said, do you guys, how, are you heating your pool? No, we don't heat it. It's 39 degrees. I said, great, I'm going to do it. And I did it. They were amazed that I actually did it. And so, today is the only day I haven't done it because this is a little bit of an earlier call. Yeah. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm going to have to give it a go, I think. Just, bite the bullet, give it a go.
Once you got to go all the way up, go up to your neck, and 10 seconds, just 10 seconds. That's how you start. So
next question I wanted to ask, what's the biggest lesson in life or business that you wish you'd learned sooner?
It's interesting, looking back at some of the opportunities that I've had that were presented to me that I took or didn't take. When I was younger, I think I looked at some of these things and I go, oh, I wish I had done this. I wish I had done that. And, I guess with age, what I've realized is that when you're presented with an opportunity, you're doing the best you possibly can at that moment with the tools and knowledge and wisdom that you have. And so you'll make decisions that have built based on all of that you've built over your life that are right for you at that moment. So I don't regret anything now. Earlier in my life, I thought, oh, why did I ace all my computer science classes and didn't go into computer science here in Seattle, Washington? Why didn't I take that job at Microsoft editing the front page of Microsoft.com? And the recruiter looked at me like, are you kidding? You're not going to take this job? Yeah. There are those types of things, but I wouldn't be doing this right now, And so, I think you kind of have to sit back and give yourself a break and realize that the decisions and opportunities that are presented to you are based on your experience and your capabilities that you have right now.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic lesson and a great perspective to try and let go of regret. So yeah, appreciate the insight. I think the final question for me, Lance, would be if you could enter one person into the Mindset Mavericks Hall of Fame, who would it be and why?
Boy, probably my wife.
Yeah.
So she was the inspiration for what we're doing. Ultimate, we're a female-led brand. She is the ultimate quality control for the product. I basically look at everything I do as I'm working to make sure that it comes up to her standards, which are very high. And I've actually understood in the past that some very large companies have had similar approaches where the leader or the innovators in the company, they weren't focused on all their customers. They were focused on, who they thought, either a person they knew or someone that was, part of the organization. As long as they were happy with what was going on, then everything was fine. And that kind of led them forward. So I would think Lori would be, part of that. Definitely.
Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. And I think it'd be remiss of me not to ask, how do you balance having a personal relationship with the person you're running a business with? What's the key to actually making that work?
Yeah. I think you have to have different expectations of your relationship, of the roles of your relationship at different times of the day. And we both have learned to do that. It was put to the test during COVID, right? Because everyone had to isolate and we spent more time together than we ever did before, even though we work together every day. So, it's an evolving process. It's not like, it's a done deal. There are times where we know, I need to walk out of the room, or I've got to go get some milk at the store, that kind of stuff. And, there are times where it's hard, for either of us, but we know that we can rely on each other. So if anything happened, not that we have the same skills or capabilities. I mean, we both have different set of skills, but we know that we can rely on each other. And that's really, I think, what the bottom line is.
Yeah, great advice there. And I've really enjoyed the conversation with you today, Lance. So thank you very much for coming on. If anyone wants to find out a little bit more about yourself or about your company and Millie Sipping Broths, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, if you go online to sippingbroth.com, that will take you right to Millie's Sipping Broth. You don't have to worry about spelling Millie's, but yeah, sippingbroth.com. And then we're on all the social media platforms at Sipping Broths, plural. So an S after Sipping Broth. And on LinkedIn as well. People can look me up. LinkedIn, my name is spelled with 2 L's. So it's LinkedIn/Lance, and it'll come right to me. So yeah, if anyone has any questions or would like to learn more about what we're doing, feel free to reach out.
Excellent. I'll put all the links in the description as well. So thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much, John. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.